Welcome to Lesson 2B in our Quantitative Reasoning course. Lesson 2B talks about forming effective study groups. Note especially the word effective. You may have had experiences in your past where groups didn't work out too well for you. Maybe you've had experiences where they did. Let's walk through some thoughts about study groups. The paragraph starts with our discussion about creating a positive learning environment and learning community continues from Lesson 1B. And one component of a productive learning community can be out-of-class study groups. Question 1, what is a study group and what is its purpose? Hit pause and write down a couple of thoughts and come right back. So your answers are going to vary in what you just decide or have had experiences with a study group and what is its purpose. What I see or envision for you is that you would have a study group of 2, 3, 4 people that was effective, where you relied on each other, you communicated with each other, you were concerned about each other coming to class, you were concerned about how each other was doing in the class, and you were helpful, you were collaborative, you were working together. In other words, when you get together, it's a good time. In other words, you are able to study, you're able to learn, it is productive. And so the purpose, in my opinion, is that the purpose will be for you to do better in this course and to do better more effectively. The objectives of this lesson, again, you need to have your in-class page with you for 2B and underline things that speak to you or underline some of the following. Successful students learn best when they are actively involved in learning. And a study group can provide a part of that active learning. Again, this course can provide active learning if you are pausing and starting, allowing yourself to think through the questions and being involved and not just passively going through some of the questions. Be active. Successful students working in small groups tend to learn more and retain information longer, and that can pay off on the test and the final than when some content is presented in other instructional formats. Students have a shared responsibility. You can't hide in a learning community, and that's why I said earlier about it being productive and effective. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to describe how to form and conduct an effective study group. You should be able to identify several key characteristics of effective study groups, and the intent is that you will take action to form a study group and become an active member. Do your part, bring your expertise, your energy to the group, become a relevant, good, great member of the group. And one thing about being in a group is sometimes you'll understand information or concepts that others won't, and they need you to communicate with that to them. And vice versa. When you're not understanding, you've got people there to help you. Question 2 is another question I'd like you to pause, think on, and answer parts A through D. My copy didn't print up too well, so let me go ahead and read the statement that you're supposed to consider. The statement you're supposed to consider is, studying in groups helps students learn more effectively. Hit pause, answer A through D, and then let's talk a little bit about it through this video. So part A, do you agree? And I believe this would happen to, I believe your answer is going to be impacted by your previous experiences. But it could also be what you really feel or believe could happen with an effective quality study group. So jot down if you agree or not, and why or why not. Part B, have you ever participated in a study group that met outside of the class? If so, write that down, reminisce about that, the good parts and the not so good parts. Part C, got ahead of myself there. Have you had positive or negative experiences? Jot those down. You need to write down both, what was good about it and what was negative about it. And finally, what are some reasons for that experience? Why do you think it was a particularly good group? Why do you think it was a particularly bad group? What was making that experience be what it was. Jot those thoughts down, and then let's keep going. To dig a little bit deeper on your experiences with study groups, look at question 3, which says consider some additional questions which are related to study groups, and they include part A, what are some reasons that students would even think about participating in a study group? Part B, what are some guidelines to forming and conducting? And I'm going to underline forming and conducting, and I'm going to big circle successful study group. Back on part A, this is a great time to pause and come back, or you can kind of write down your thoughts as I'm talking. But what are some reasons you would even consider? And your reasons are going to be special to you. Mine would be that I'm more efficient in my studying and that I have an accountability group to help me to make sure that I am studying. And it's not their job to make me do it. But when you know you've got a group to go meet at 4 o'clock, you're more likely going to get your homework done so that you can then have the discussion on what you couldn't do or what you need help on. It'll make you more, maybe more responsible. And again, the group can't make you do anything, but they can help encourage better habits. Part B, forming and conducting. I think you need to be very careful who you invite and who you do not invite to your groups. This is your learning. You have the right to be selective, but also conducting the group and making sure there are some ground rules. Our group will be on time. Our group will stay on task. Our group will take a break every hour, whatever it's going to be. And what might be the process for removing members from the group or adding additional members from the group? This may be way deeper than you want to get with study groups, and you may be just like, hey, everybody meet up at, and then name a place and day and time. What is it you're wanting? What can you do to help form that group? And part C, what are some ways in which the group could determine a meeting time? There are so many electronic possibilities. You can do all sorts of polls. You can do all sorts of applications on phones. Consider those and use those. Before beginning question 4, make sure that you have spent some quality time thinking through effective and not effective or non-effective study groups. Make sure you've spent some time thinking what it is you even want from a study group, if you're going to pursue a study group and what that would look like. Once you're pretty sure you've thought as much as you can think at this point about a study group, then move on to question 4. We have our D2L site, we have my Math Lab site, and we have all sorts of information there where you can look for other members of our online community. Several of you are in face-to-face O232 courses, and you could look for members of the group there. Lots of different venues, areas, possibilities, even when you go to Math Lab at campuses. If you notice people in there that are in the same course, you need to be looking around for people who might agree to form a group, and don't be bashful, ask. Talk about a first meeting, how many times you want to try to meet, and then be willing to modify. Be willing to talk about what you want to do, write down phone numbers or email addresses or all sorts of, again, different types of electronic possibilities to put groups together that are safe and that don't reveal too much personal information. Part C says turn in the names of your group members to your instructor. I'm not asking you to do that, but I am asking you to highly consider and to highly pursue forming a study group. This concludes our lesson 2B. Go look at your calendar to see if there are more lessons for you to do before this week's deadline.